All right, let's get right into it. We all know about poison ivy. I mean, it's probably the first plant you ever learned to stay away from as a kid. But here's the thing. There's a really common mistake people make when they try to get rid of it, a mistake that turns this simple backyard pest into something truly dangerous. Yeah, we've all heard that little rhyme, right? Leaves of three, let it be. It's good advice. It's saved countless people from a week of itchy, miserable rash. And honestly, for most of us, that's pretty much where the conversation about poison ivy ends. But what if I told you that the skin rash isn't even the worst part? Not by a long shot. There is a hidden danger locked inside this plant, a danger that gets unleashed by something people do in their backyards all the time. So, first, let's start on familiar ground. We're talking about that awful, blistering rash you can get from poison ivy, or its cousins, poison oak and poison sumac. It's practically a rite of passage, isn't it? Millions of people every single year end up with that rash. But that common problem, as annoying as it is really just a distraction. It's a smokescreen for the plant's real power, which all comes down to one incredibly potent chemical. To really get a handle on the danger here, we have to meet the true villain of the story. It's a toxic oil, and its name is Urushiol. Urushiol is the nasty stuff in the entire plant. We're talking leaves, stems, roots, even the berries. It's everywhere. And its name? It actually comes from the Japanese word for lacquer, urushi, because this same family of plants is used to make that super durable, glossy finish on traditional Japanese lacquerware. And the potency, I mean, this is what's just mind-blowing. For someone who's sensitive, it only takes a single nanogram of this stuff to cause a reaction. A nanogram. That is 1/1000th of a gram. It's an amount so small you could never, ever see it. And to really put that into perspective, check this out. Just a 1/4 ounce of pure urushiol, that's less than 2 teaspoons, is enough to give a rash to every single person on the entire planet. That's how unbelievably powerful this oil is. And this stuff is stubborn. It doesn't just break down. It can stay active on dead plants for years. It can cling to your shovel or your garden gloves for up to 5 years. Your dog can run through a patch, not be affected at all, and then bring that oil right into your house on its fur. So the risk is there all year long, even from a vine that looks totally dead in the middle of winter. Okay, so here's the critical turning point. What happens when you take this incredibly potent, incredibly stable oil and you set it on fire? This is where everything changes, and the danger just goes through the roof. 200 degrees Celsius, or about 392 Fahrenheit. Remember that number, because that is the boiling point of Urushiol, and it's not super high. In fact, it's a temperature that's easily reached in a typical backyard brush fire, and that right there is the key to this whole problem. Now, this slide just lays it out perfectly. If you had a super hot, roaring inferno, you might actually destroy the toxin. But think about it, that's not what most backyard brush fires look like, right? They're usually just smoldering. They burn at a much lower temperature, right around Urushiol's boiling point. And so instead of destroying the oil, the fire vaporizes it. It turns it into an aerosol. So here's exactly how that danger takes flight. The smoldering heat boils the oil, turning it into a vapor. That toxic vapor then latches onto tiny particles of soot and ash floating around in the smoke. It's basically hitching a ride. And then the wind can just pick up that toxic smoke and carry it for miles, way, way beyond the original fire. So what happens if you breathe that smoke in? Well, this is where it gets really scary. When you inhale Urushiol, it's not just a simple irritation. It actually triggers your own immune system to wage a full-scale war against your own body. See, this is not a normal allergy like pollen where you sneeze right away. This is something called a Type IV Hypersensitivity reaction, and it's delayed. The toxin basically tricks your immune system. It binds to the tissue inside your lungs, and your own T cells, the cells that are supposed to protect you, mistakenly see your lung cells as a foreign invader, so they attack. Your body is literally destroying its own lungs from the inside out. And the most terrifying part of this whole thing is the delay. For the first few hours, you might just feel like you've breathed in some smoke, scratchy throat, watery eyes. Then you enter this latent period. For up to a day, you might feel totally fine, but inside your body, this immunological time bomb is ticking. And then, after 24 to 72 hours, the inflammatory peak hits. Your lungs become severely inflamed and start to fill with fluid. And I want to be very clear. This is not some theoretical risk. This is real, and it can be fatal.
This quote is from a forensic pathology journal. It's describing the lungs of people who have died from inhaling poison ivy's smoke. The damage is catastrophic. We're talking about bleeding in the lungs, massive swelling, and the airways themselves getting clogged with debris. Okay, so now that we understand just how serious this is, let's talk about what to do instead. How do you actually protect yourself and get rid of this plant safely? Let's just say this one more time, because if you take away one single thing from this entire explainer, this should be it. Burning poison ivy transforms a simple skin irritant into an airborne, systemic, and potentially fatal poison. And this chart just makes it so clear. You have so many other options. You can use herbicides, you can cover the area with mulch, you can even rank goats. Seriously, they love eating the stuff. You can carefully, while wearing gloves, bag it up and send it to the landfill. All of these are safe ways to deal with it. The one thing you should never, ever, ever do is burn it. The risk of a fatal injury is just too high. And look, if you do come into contact with the plant, you've got to decontaminate. Urushiol is an oil, remember? So just rinsing with water isn't going to cut it. You need a degreasing soap, something like dish soap, for your skin and tools. Always use gloves when you handle contaminated clothes, and wash them by themselves in the hottest water your machine can handle. So the next time you see a column of smoke rising from a neighbor's yard or from a wildfire in the distance, you'll know the invisible danger that could be hiding in that smoke. It definitely makes you think twice, doesn't it?